travel down to flight 997 with service to New York's LaGuardia Airport. In just a few moments, we do anticipate the general boarding of your flight.
I don't know why, but I decided instead of bringing the Osmo for this trip to bring the DJI Action 5 Pro. But I don't know, I just wanted to challenge myself on this little trip because this trip is purely for Mr. Holly, so I'm just coming for vibes. Even though the definition of cinematic hasn't really changed, the technologies around achieving the term have. To film something, quote, cinematically is becoming less and less about what camera you're using and more about developing and learning the technical skills of the tool. Having an eye for framing, regardless of what aspect ratio you record in, can make the simplest settings feel more dynamic, whether you're deciding whether to center your subject or push them to either third of the screen. Now, I do think there are a few things you will need control of, regardless of what camera you're using, if you're trying to film quote-unquote cinematically. Those things are your shutter speed and your frame rate, which work in tandem. And I'll try to explain it as best I can. Video is an illusion. It's a collection of individual photos being flashed in front of you so quickly that they give the illusion of motion. Okay, y'all, Editor Holly's here to kind of break things down for a second. So when we're talking about frame rate, 24 frames per second is kind of what's considered cinematic. So if we zoom in on this subway scene that I have here, if we actually zoom in and make the timeline be 1 second long and see each frame, there would be 24 frames. Essentially, the camera is taking 24 pictures a second to give the illusion of us moving on a subway in that moment. And the reason why 24 frames per second is considered the most cinematic is because it mirrors how we actually see the world, more or less. The best way to describe this is if you actually hold your hand in front of you, right? And you move it really fast, you'll notice a thing called motion blur. You aren't actually seeing your fingers at every single moment. You're seeing a blur of them pass by. And that's what 24 frames per second does. It gives us that illusion of that natural blur that we see in and around us every day. Now, your shutter speed is the literal time it takes for your camera, whether it's a physical shutter or a digital one, to take that photo. So the higher that bottom number is with that fraction, with your shutter speed, the faster it's taking that photo. Whatever frame rate you are going at, so in our case, cinematic, 24 frames per second, you wanna have your shutter be at about 1/50th. If your camera can do 1/48, even better, because basically whatever the frame rate is, you wanna have it double for that bottom number of your shutter. So hopefully that helps explain things a little bit more. All right, back to the vlog. I always personally enjoy when I can just see a bit more in a frame because I feel like it gives so much context. For me, when I'm creating things or thinking about framing of shots, even with something as like non-cinematic as a vlog, I am thinking about everything that you're seeing and how is that enabling and helping the story I'm trying to tell. That could work. Maybe this isn't the best shot, but I kind of like the idea of playing around with the fact that the room is warm, but I'm cool. Like, what does that mean? Does that make you feel something different? Here's the shot raw. Here's a shot color corrected. And then here's a shot color graded. You learn the rules so you can bend them, you can break them, distort them. I'm just experimenting, y'all. So let's cover everything I'm using to film with my DJI Action 5 Pro, and I will put everything in the description if you're curious to check any of these accessories out. The first is the Osmo Action Mini Extension Rod. I like it because it fits really easily in my Uniqlo bag. It's basically like the perfect tabletop height. I'm also using the DJI Action 1.5 meter extension rod. I'm also combining it with the tripod legs that come with the Osmo Pocket 3. There is a real risk of it tipping over, so I've been just putting my bag on it to weigh it down. I would say not the safest use of this. I've definitely knocked it over already, but the Action 5 is such a rugged little camera that it hasn't been an issue. It still works just fine. And then of course, I have my DJI Mic 3s, and then of course you still have the 32-bit float recording. And then finally, ND filters. These are so necessary if you're gonna be trying to film cinematic. You probably notice if you've tried to have your frame rate at 24 frames per second, shutter speed at 1/50th, when you go outside on a sunny day, it's completely blown out. As you can see outside the window of this coffee shop, no ND filter on, and yeah, everything's kind of blown out. This is where the ND filter comes in. It's basically sunglasses for your lens. So I would definitely say that ND filters are a must, for me at least, if I'm trying to get the most cinematic looking thing I can, regardless of what camera I'm using. I keep forgetting that you just gotta like commit to filming in public. Like, you just can't be afraid to do it. So I was filming those little shots at that coffee shop just now, and I was trying to be as discreet as possible, which I think you can be pretty discreet with this little camera, which I like, but I was still a little nervous about it. I didn't realize it, but the people that were sitting outside were actually the owners, and she was like, "I see you filming. You look so sweet, and you have the logo of our coffee shop in your little video. So here, have a free pastry. Thanks for filming in our little store, and tell people." And I was like, oh my God, thanks. Just do the thing, you know, and be respectful about it. Like, I had mentioned to the barista, like, hey, I'm gonna film a little bit if that's okay. And he was like, oh yeah, go for it. Just be respectful when you do it, and you might end up just getting a free pastry, which there's nothing wrong with that. So I am currently heading to Central Park just to see. I come to New York at least once a year, it seems like, but it's usually for something related to work. So this time, Mr. Hollis is in a writers conference, a Latina-focused writers conference. And so I'm just bebopping around while he's at that. But I've never been to Central Park, so I had figured, you know what? Let me go be a tourist for the day. Playing around and experimenting with this little camera was fun because you can just take it anywhere. I mean, I never have to worry about dropping this camera almost in anything, water, a bush. It also gave me the confidence to get shots that I wouldn't normally get in public. Ultimately, I think it's less about the camera you're using and more about what is going to enable you to go out and tell your own story and working with what you've got. If you're new here, I'm Halise, endeavoring to persevere as always, and on this channel, I document my chaotic good life. Big shout out to my Patreon producers, patreon.com/Halise. There you get early access to my videos, exclusive content, merch, and more. All right, y'all, I'll see you when I see you. Toodles.